Liquid Layout. I just love the name. Liquid Layout is a series of different rules that you can apply to objects on the page that don't go into effect until you change the page's size. We've been able to change the page's size since the beginning of time by going to the File menu and choosing Document Setup. So here you could change the page's size. But more commonly, especially in more recent versions of InDesign, people use either the Page tool here on the left, which is Shift-P, a keyboard shortcut I'll be using a lot in the rest of the videos in this chapter. And you can use this to change the page size, or you can also, let me go back to the Selection tool, in the Pages panel, let's move you up a bit, you can use this drop-down menu to change the page size of the selected page right here. So we've been able to change page sizes and mix page sizes for a while. But whenever you do so, just the page sizes change, right? The items on that page don't change. And then you need to move them over and make them align to the new margins and resize them and scale them and so on. It's a lot of work. You may be familiar with a time-saving feature called Layout Adjustment that a lot of people have used. And Layout Adjustment is still here. It's no longer an item under the Layout menu. But if you go to the Margins and Columns dialog box, you'll see Enable Layout Adjustment here. It's also available in the Liquid Layout panel, and there is a Liquid Layout panel. It's not always required, but let's go ahead and open it. It's under the Window menu. Go down to Interactive. I don't know why it's in Interactive, because Liquid Layout rules can be applied to many print projects as well, not just Interactive, but this is where it is. So choose it here. I know you're never going to find this on your own. If you go to Liquid Layout menu, this is where the actual dialog box is for Layout Adjustment. I don't know why they didn't put a button leading you to this dialog box in Margins and Columns, but this is where they stash it. I actually think they forgot about it and they added it at the last minute. So Layout Adjustment is still here, but I believe the writing's on the wall and this is going to be going away at some point because Liquid Layout replaces Layout Adjustment. You can't use both, and there's really no reason to. It is the replacement for Layout Adjustment, but it is still here. If you're a big fan of Layout Adjustment, it works just like how it did before. I'm going to click Cancel here for now. And let me stash this down here and close you. We'll come back to you later. So where does Liquid Layout, where do you start applying Liquid Layout? Whenever you need to change the page size. It is not available under the File menu, under here, Document Setup. So don't even bother coming here. Would be nice, but they don't have it here. Instead, it's usually one of two places. One, when you're using the Page tool to change the page size. So if I select the Page tool, then you can see that there is a Liquid Page Rule drop-down right up here in the Control panel. And two, when you create an alternate layout, which I covered in the previous video. But if I come here and I right-click and I say Create Alternate Layout, there is a Liquid Page Rule drop-down menu as well. I'm going to click Cancel out of here. See what happens when you change the page size with Liquid Page Rule off. In other words, like how it always used to work whenever you change the page size. By the way, there is a handy-dandy new feature with the Page tool in CS6, and that is you don't have to actually click on the page or on the page's thumbnail in the Pages panel. As soon as you select the Page tool or press Shift-P, you get resize handles around the active page, and the Control panel automatically switches to the Page tool control panel. So I love that. Now, as you resize, I'm just going to drag any one of these handles. As I'm resizing the page, you can see that nothing is happening with the objects. They're staying where they are. And by the way, when you resize the page this way, this is completely new, to be able to do this right on the page, it does not stick. So if I release it, it just jumps back to where it was, which is a good thing. If for some reason you're actually trying to resize pages by eye, you can hold down the Option or Alt key, and then it'll stay there. So let's say that I wanted to make it, I'm looking up at the width and height fields in the Control panel. I want to make it about 7 by 8.5. So I'm holding down the Option key on my Mac and I release, and now that's the new page size, and a bunch of junk is over here out in the pasteboard. I'm going to undo. Or instead of dragging the handles, we could just choose a different page size from here. So let's make this into a business card. I'm going to undo there. And of course, it's going according to what this little proxy is. So if I say center, and let's make this into a business card, there's the business cards right in the middle. That's what I wanted. Let's undo. Now this time, instead of Liquid Page Rule being off, let's change it to scale. So I'm going to go over each one of these in upcoming videos, but I just want to give you an idea of what the liquid page rule does. Now, as I resize the page, it automatically scales all the contents, which is pretty neat. The text and the objects and any pictures and any placed movies, it would scale them. There's a couple other interesting ones. Recenter is very straightforward. Basically, it just keeps everything centered on the page. So if you go smaller, it doesn't make much sense. But if you go larger, you can see it's just recentering everything. So the objects are moving, but they're not resizing and they're not scaling. They're just changing position, but they're staying exactly the same distance apart from each other that they were in the beginning. Let's fit that in the window, maybe zoom out a little bit. We have a couple other interesting ones, a little bit more complicated, called object-based and guide-based. But essentially, like with object-based, I could click on an object and say, I want you to stay the same distance from the top and the same distance from the right when I resize the page. And you too, you stay the same distance from the bottom, same distance from the right. Now I'm going to resize the page, and those guys stay the same distance. Everything else, they float around kind of loosey-goosey, even though I did not apply any object-based settings to them, and that's by design. And with guide-based, you actually drag out a new thing called a liquid guide that determines which objects will be resized. Anything that hits that object will be resized in that dimension. So when I drag a vertical guide, these items will be resized horizontally. Do you see how the frames are changing horizontally? But if I drag up, they don't change vertically. So it's a little backwards, but that's how InDesign likes to do things, or maybe it's just my brain that's backwards. But we're going to look at all those in detail. I just want to make sure that you understand that the general point of liquid page rules or liquid layout rules is that you can create one base layout and then from that spawn alternate layouts or different size layouts for different kinds of output, for websites, for tablets, for Nooks, and so on. And with the help of liquid page rules, as you're working to create different variations of the same layout, InDesign is helping you to do some of the heavy lifting of moving, sizing, and scaling the objects on the page to better fit the new layout.